Welcome back to This Is Why We Watch Movies. I'm Brian,
And I'm Landon.
and today we're here to talk to you about movies.
Yeah, we are.
Both in the, I guess the making of movies and the reviewing of movies,
That is true.
the watching of movies, if you will.
Yeah,
Just the overall enjoyment of movies. That's what we're about here.
absolutely.
You may notice, if you're on the video feed, a couple of differences. Most notably, I forgot to take notes and to bring my iPad, so no iPad for me, and no cup for Landon. He forgot his cup. So we're sorry that the mise-en-scène is different.
Yeah.
And also, I'm wearing a olive green. I don't know if that's going to blend with the green screen or not. So if I have a space chest, that's why.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Adjust my mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Haven't really done much today. Just kind of wandered around.
Wandered around through life, perhaps.
Yeah. I went to Walmart and just kind of walked around. Nothing else going on.
Don't we all do that sometimes, though? Like, we just go to Walmart and wonder what we've done with our lives.
Well, I was wandering, but yeah,
I see.
it's a little bit different.
And I guess it is different, yeah. I was working on sound mixing, which can really drive someone insane.
Yeah, no doubt.
But you know what? Our short film Lost Echoes, it got into a student film festival in Greensboro, and it's been nominated for Best Cinematography and for Best Editing, but not for Best Writing.
That hurts a little bit. We didn't need all that today.
There's space to do better, that's all I'm saying.
I guess, for anybody who doesn't know, this was something we made last year. What was it? March of last year?
April. We were filming it 1 year ago today.
Whoa.
We wrapped 1 year ago today.
Wait, 1.0 or 2.0?
The second version.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so last April we did this thing. I wrote it, and then he directed it. I think it turned out really well.
It did.
So
I would assume that the lack of a writing award is because there's only one line of dialogue in the whole thing. So
probably, yeah.
And people equate writing to
Dialogue, yeah.
even though like you wrote what he does in the film.
Yeah.
So anyways,
That's fine.
it's interesting.
I don't really care that much, honestly.
People, well, fine then. You know what?
I'm just glad we did the thing.
I'm glad we did it, and that some people that we don't know are going to watch it.
Yeah, that's the cool part.
That's what I care about.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, today we're going to be watching reviewing a movie that I think some people watched.
Yeah, I don't know how many, but I'm sure it did okay.
Yep. It's second A24 film in a streak, right?
Yeah, actually, I didn't think about it like that, but yeah.
Interesting. Anyways, was Nickel Boys A24?
No.
Okay, I was going to say it might be 3 weeks in a row.
No.
Or 3 episodes in a row, because these have not been coming out weekly.
Yeah.
But yeah, would you like to tell them what the film is?
Yeah, well, we are going to review Warfare. And the synopsis is as follows. A platoon of Navy SEALs embark on a dangerous mission in Ramadi, Iraq, with the chaos of Brotherhood of War retold through the memories of the event.
Yeah, I guess that's accurate.
Yep. It was directed by Alex Garland, who did Civil War, and was it Ray Mendoza? Is that the guy's name? I think.
I believe it was Mendoza, yes.
Who is an Iraqi war veteran, and this was based on something that happened to him and his platoon.
Yes. I think that from everything I was reading, Alex Garland really was probably more of a line producer for this, if you were to shake out like the duties, and that's according to him.
Okay. Fair.
He said that he was like an assistant coach, and that reminds me of like line producing essentially.
Okay.
It was largely Mendoza, and it was interesting is their relationship begins back in Civil War, which we reviewed on here last year, that Mendoza was his warfare consultant for the combat scenes in Civil War.
Oh, interesting.
And so, excuse me, this story I think was birthed out of perhaps a conversation that happened between them while they were working on Civil War, and then they went and made this one.
Interesting. That doesn't surprise me to hear that about Alex Garland, because I feel like the last thing I heard about him was he was like, I'm just kind of burnt out on this directing thing.
Right. He said, I just want to focus on writing and, first passion, which he seems like someone who did not intend on being a director in the first place.
I think.
And then had autism slapped on his name and was like.
Which I think he's a very good director.
Yeah.
Not everything that he has made has hit for me, but I think that he has some really, really strong stuff as well that is very, very good.
Yeah. I think that that's a great way to put it.
I like his sci-fi stuff a lot.
His sci-fi stuff is cool. I was trying to figure out exactly what his... This was about to sound anti-progressive in every way, but like what his qualifications are to like write about, you know, American politics in a specific way. Because I generally, when you see people that do films that are like that are like a satire, or in this case, like a critique of something, they're they kind of have like a background within like political journalism and that sort of thing.
Are you referring to Civil War? This one,
Both of them to an extent,
Okay.
I think. And so I was then like, oh, he's British, but also I know that like he's probably been around like LA and stuff. So that's not something to get caught in the weeds of. I just think it's interesting that like,
well,
I was curious where all that comes from.
I think that it's weird in this way that like I wouldn't even really consider this a critique by any means.
Hmm.
I think it just showed what happened, and you just kind of put your own like view of things on it. I don't think it's going to change anybody's mind
Yeah.
about how they feel about the war that we were involved in. Not to get into all that, because I think that would just be kind of reductive to the film itself.
Sure.
But I do think it is something to think about when you're going into it, because how, it's not going to change your mind at all.
I mean, sure. I think both of us have pretty strong feelings regarding said war.
Yeah.
So it's not, like you said, it's not productive to really talk about that and critique the war or the administration on the
Correct.
podcast. But in terms of the film, what I think is interesting is growing up with this going on in the background. It is always felt abstract. It's the way I would describe my relationship with the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. Like, we heard about it on the news. I remember seeing it every night, talking about it.
Yeah.
But it's also something that was like so far away and kind of like separate from, you know, my experience. And even the people I knew that were in the military were not deploying there. They were
Sure.
National Guard or Air Force or something. And so, I don't know. I think that's just like, to me, when I watch a film which is set during the war, the Iraq War in specific, whether it's this one or The Hurt Locker, it's interesting as like a historical document, because it's like, oh, it brings life and understanding to how that functioned, because I think we're so familiar with the war film as being like the Second World War or Vietnam. And it's very rare to get something that is specifically about Afghanistan or Iraq. This was Iraq.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think it does a good job of that, of
Yeah.
bringing you into that world, whether, how comfortable or uncomfortable you feel about it.
Right.
It is successful in that, which I do think.
I think that was their number one goal as
Yeah.
well. So I have to say the film hits on that.
Yeah. And I also think, like, and I think this is the first pro, not to kind of mess the flow up, but I just want to, this is something I do think needs to be discussed, because I think it was really well done. And I am I was very, very happy with how this was. The sound design was incredible.
Well, and we also saw it in IMAX, so that
But I've been seeing,
contributes.
I've also been seeing people who saw it standard also saying the same thing.
Okay.
So it seems like it is translating to other formats as well. I mean, I'm sure IMAX enhanced it for sure,
yeah.
but the sound design was insane. It was incredible.
Did you see my Letterboxd review?
No,
4 words. Big explosions scare me.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I jumped.
there was I mean, for sure. I think it would be weird if you didn't.
Yeah. No, it was like some of the loudest explosions I've seen in a war film as well, but it's also because of how like claustrophobic it was. I don't know, just the whole portrayal of like battle per se, in terms of guns and that stuff, it's much more tight
Mm-hmm.
in its focus than, something like Full Metal Jacket or whatever. Even that one is like a more personal story, but it's shot with like wide angles for a lot of the fights. It's weird to call it fights, but dog fights. And in this one, it's like very claustrophobic camera angles, and you never really see the people they're shooting at.
Yeah.
It focuses on like the terror that they're feeling, and the adrenaline. And I think that is why it just translates for me. I don't think I have seen good combat scenes in that way. It was very reminiscent of, the opening to Private Ryan in that
Oh,
regard.
okay, yeah,
I would put the combat scenes in this film up with that in terms of like the way that it brings you into the space, but maybe not quite as good.
sure.
Anyways, I'm going to stop rambling about the combat scenes were very well blocked.
I know, I
yeah.
agree. I think that all the combat scenes were very well blocked. I also think that like Joseph Quinn, whose role for half of this movie was just to be screaming,
Yeah.
that was scarring. He like, I didn't believe for 1 second he was acting. I was like, good Lord. Because the screams were just guttural. It was rough. And that kind of ties back into the sound design. But there was one moment in the film where you have people screaming. You have 3 different like radios going on at once. And I'm just like, somebody's got to stop. Like we got to, I was literally like, this is too much going on right now.
Yeah.
In the best way possible. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I think that was definitely intentional. But you have 3 different people giving 3 different commands on the radio. You have 2 people screaming because their legs are blown up. That whole scene, I was like, good. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. I think that is a great way to feel about it, though. That's another weird token. It's weird talking about this movie as well because of how it is based on something that happened. But, and the War on Terror feels very fresh. Weirdly. I don't like thinking about the fact, well, obviously it's good that it was 20 years ago, but I don't like thinking about the fact that I'm 20 years older. That's weird.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there is just like this, like rising tension through the whole thing. And it does get very intense, especially in the last bit. I would say that, I mean, everything from the first hand grenade is pretty intense, but it has moments where it calms down and then it like picks back up, or like you think they're going to be successful. I was kind of surprised that it didn't follow them longer than it did, which I think it's kind of difficult to continue talking about this without spoilers. I know that we're not in cons yet, but I'm going to go ahead and throw in a spoiler warning that the film only follows the platoon while they're in the house, and as soon as they leave the house, the film's over. So I would have been interested to see like what the tank ride back was like.
I think that for this to be a love letter to his platoon, I don't feel like I know any of them.
Yeah.
I had to look up people's names because I was like, I don't know who was playing who.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that wasn't what they were going for. They were going for, okay, this was this 90 minutes of my life that was terrifying. I'm going to show it to you how I remember it.
Yeah.
But I also do think that having a little bit of foreknowledge about these people would have made me connect a little bit more.
I appreciated that we didn't get that because to me it made them faceless, and that's kind of how we perceive soldiers, especially within like I don't want to say American patriotism propaganda, because again, not trying to get overly political, but the way that we portray our soldiers in artworks and statues, memorials, is like very macho, very brave, and like standing up, and we see them fighting essentially, and we erect monuments that show them doing this, and it's very rare for us to like have a piece of art that portrays a soldier in pain like that. And I think that the facelessness of like, I can be that when you see like a soldier statue, like holding up a flag or whatever, is like kind of like, oh, project yourself onto that. Like, oh, we did that. And so for me, what I'm getting at is that like the fact that they were all faceless is a projecting thing almost, where it's like, oh, this could be any random soldier or person I know that was there that went through something like this. And I think that made it hit a bit harder for me because it wasn't a character. It was like just like the soldiers in the way that we see them in the sense of like art. I don't know. Did that make any sense?
I understand where you're coming from.
I'm not saying it's a great thing. I'm just saying that I think that that's how it functioned for me.
if that's how it worked for you, that's amazing. I'm glad that that did work for you. But for me, I just felt more disconnected from everything further. I don't need them to be like sympathetic and nice people, like because I know everybody's not, but I do
The
feel like,
majority are not.
but I do feel like to know just a touch about them before
Yeah.
we get into everything would have made the situation, you know, hit harder for me.
Sure.
But I also, it's fair. What you said is 100% valid, and I think I'm glad that that worked for you like that. It just didn't for me. I couldn't.
It's a line to walk almost, because I think that another film which does this and is a great, one of its detriments almost, is the Thin Red Line, in which there is a surplus of main characters, like, you know, bit parts from famous actors, and there's only really two people that you get invested in, one of which is Jim Caviezel. But we do see
yeah.
the flashbacks to Jim Caviezel's life outside of the war.
I don't need that.
And what I'm getting at is, like, we get to know him as a character.
Yeah.
And so you're sympathetic for him when he doesn't make it out.
Mm.
But the rest of the film, you don't get that for anyone. And so I'm saying that I think it would be maybe a compromise on that would be if, like, one of the characters in this movie, which I think it would be the Native American kid, I would
Sure.
say if he was, like, given more agency and a plot point, he kind of felt like an audience insert to me in some scenes, and then that went away. But I think, like, if we got to know him a bit better and it was seeing it through his eyes, that would have been interesting.
Okay. Fair enough.
Anyways, I know that we've kind of teetered into like a pro and con at the same time with that, but
Yeah, it's so strange because I mean, and again, I think that's going to be a lot of people's like reaction to the film is it's going to go one way or the other.
yes,
But again, I don't think the movie's bad. I think, in fact, I think it's shot very well. I think the sound design is very well. I think the thing that's just holding me back is partly the character, like the connection to the character. It's hard to call them characters because they're real people, but
I wouldn't even say that they're. I mean, yeah, they're real people. I would say that they're like the ideas of people, they're
Right.
not even real people.
sure,
Which I guess characters are that too. I'm just being too philosophical today.
maybe
But-
I don't know.
Anyways,
But yeah, and then I don't know. Again, I think it's a lot of baggage you bring into a war film like this, especially with something that is kind of like been in the front of our brain forever.
well, if you look at it from the perspective that, like, we as a country did not pull out of Afghanistan until 2021,
Yeah.
and that war and the war depicted in this film are kind of intrinsically connected.
Sure.
It is very fresh because we're only 4 years out from that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that cons, the elephant in the room, I don't think that you talked about this earlier. The film doesn't really do anything to make a statement about
No.
whether or not the actions of said platoon are positive or negative in the long run. And I think that that's to the film's like detriment because I think
100%.
they want it to be played as a anti-war film, I think, but then also it doesn't play as that because there is no guiding like narrative.
I think they tried.
Yeah.
Like I think the when they blow the again, I go where we're in spoilers anyway.
Yeah,
So
we've
when
been in
the-
spoilers a while.
When they blow the Iraqi family's house up, there's a moment that I think they like leaned into it for half a second
yeah.
and then just kind of moved on, and they just asked them why, because they blow their entire house up, and just leave them in the rubble.
Yeah, and then they blow up the rest of the block.
But yeah, I don't feel like exactly. I don't feel like the film ever puts any judgment on that, and that's going to happen when you were there and you're part of it, and I understand that. And you have to do. I guess they had to do what they were. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but yeah, I think that for half a second it thought about making a statement, but it doesn't.
It doesn't, and I think that not that that's dangerous, but like I think it's if the filmmakers have a bias or like a statement to make, I think it's irresponsible to like trust the audience, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Talking about the ending specifically, it's this moment where all of the main characters get onto the transport tanks, the ones that survived at least, and then they are driven away from the combat zone, having left it in rubble, and basically ruined this entire block for the people who did live there. And then the insurgents, if you can call them that, I'm not exactly sure what the proper term is, because I don't remember which group it was. We'll just say insurgents.
Okay.
They all kind of come out of the rubble, and it's just like the only moment in the film where there's actually quiet and peace. It's just like as the dust settles, they return and kind of look around like, did that just happen?
Yeah.
And it's like, even though the tanks bombed out the entire block, none of these, from what we can tell, none of them actually got hit or died.
Right.
So there's kind of like almost a pointlessness to the fact that they even did that. I don't know, and there's something about that moment that I've sat with for quite a while, and I think that if the film is making a statement, it's that.
Right.
I don't exactly know what the statement is, but it's in that moment.
Right. I think that's more the issue is that it's so ambiguous that it is just, again, it's how you go in to view it is how you're going to come out. I think and sometimes that's all right. Like it, but for me, it's like in this specific circumstance, I would have liked to have seen him,
Sure. So my sister was here working on the film over the weekend. You said hi. And she listens, so also she'll probably be like, "Oh, you're ripping me off," so I have to mention that this comes from her. Shout out Laura.
Smarter than us.
Yeah, I'm going to be a doctor soon or whatever.
That's true.
So I forget what the method was, but essentially the device that they would use for like placing where enemy mortars were like hitting in World War I, it did some kind of recording of like geographic positions and that sort of thing. And sound engineers were able to take it and listen to the exact moment that World War I ended. I know that they had to like recreate the sound design from it, but basically like the imprints of that were in this like recording. I don't know what the device was. I don't think it's radar, but something along those lines they were placing where shells were dropping with it. And so if you go and listen to this recording, which I highly encourage anyone to look it up, it's like the sounds of hell. Like you're hearing like bombardment of explosions and shells, and then right at 11 o'clock, the guns stop. And within 10 seconds, the birds started singing again. And there's something about that it's like that nature was wanting to spring back into life the entire time and that we didn't allow it to. And so in a weird way, I got the same vibe from the ending of this movie, just not from the insurgents coming out and walking, but more so from like the dust settling and there actually just being peace in the space.
Interesting.
So I don't know. That's something I've been wrestling with, but
It's very interesting.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting, and we talked about this leaving the theater, but in a weird way, my critiques for this and Civil War just kind of flipped in a weird way. Where Civil War, I think its message is very clear, and I think it lacks some oomph. This has that, while
It has the oomph without the message.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that one thing you could maybe project onto it as a piece is that we know what Alex Garland and is it Mendez?
Ray Mendoza.
Mendoza, thank you. We kind of know what their stance is because they worked together on Civil War. But I think that again, it's kind of this problematic thing where it's like, as a whole, if I wasn't familiar with their previous work, I would not know what to think of this one.
Right.
So, yeah. Do you have anything else to add on to that? Because I think that my World War I rant means that I'm probably out of things.
Yeah, no, I think we've covered everything I wanted to really talk about.
Okay.
Ranted about the Iraq War for a while,
Yeah. I don't know. It's we need to just start another podcast where we can talk about politics.
Oh God.
This is why we watch the news.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, can't.
Anyways, if you were to rate this on a scale of 1 to 5,
I'm giving it 3.5.
3.5.
Like again, I think the filmmaking is solid.
Yeah.
And I would like to see Ray Mendoza do some more things, but maybe not necessarily true to life things. You know what I mean?
Imagine if he were to do something like The Hurt Locker.
I think it'd be great.
Like something that wasn't so hyper focused on like a slice of life thing, but like a bigger movie.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Bless you.
Pollen is very strong these
my
days.
allergies have been really bad. I took a Lysol before I came here.
I forgot to take anything, so my apologies to anyone listening. Yeah, I'd give it 4 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I think is exactly what I gave Civil War. Question mark?
I gave Civil War 4 out of 5, and I gave this one 3.5. So again, I think that I like it. I
I might have given Civil War 3.5. We may have actually flipped.
look it up really
Look
quick.
it up. Look it up. Find the facts. Tell us the facts. We will listen. We listen to you, O Landon of the pod.
Oh, I gave Civil War. I gave both of them 3.5. Okay, that makes sense.
Interesting.
And you gave it. I don't know. You gave Civil War 2.5.
Oh,
Or no, you gave it 2.
I gave it 2. I did. I'm thinking of a different movie.
That's wild.
I'm kidding. I remember being more fond of Civil War.
Yeah, I feel like we both were
But I critiqued it heavily for like similar things that you're critiquing this one for.
right.
Interesting. We
But-
really did flip.
Well, no, we didn't flip. I have the same exact score.
We flipped it. I was also
But
trying to be hyperbolic.
I also think that looking back on it, I probably would raise Civil War to a 4.
I would raise it to like a 3.5 for
Because
sure.
whenever I was thinking about it today, I go, oh, I gave Civil War 4. I never even bothered to look. But
I gave it a 2 because I, at the time, was like, I haven't given any negative reviews.
honestly, the numbers are arbitrary. It's
They are. Again, I encouraged everyone, go watch Civil War for yourself. And
Yeah.
I think
think-
it's a movie I haven't forgotten, which inherently means I probably malaligned it initially.
yeah.
And if you are curious as to why I rated it that, I'm sure I mentioned something in the podcast. You can go back and listen to it, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's all I got to say.
Cool. Well, that has been our review of Warfare by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza.
Yep.
Okay, I got it right. We have a new segment today, or is it? It's not a new segment.
No. So the last couple of weeks, you have created some brackets for me to go through.
Okay,
The first one was Spielberg, which hurt my soul.
that's true.
And then last week's was rom-com, which probably got me canceled.
Yeah, Mr. Annie Hall.
All right, chill out. But I've created one for you today that is going to be
Oh, no.
painful.
Oh no!
I took 32 of your 5 stars
What?
on Letterboxd.
No, this is 2 pointed.
And I'm going to make you pick between your 5 stars. I think I know what's going to win, to be honest.
you don't know what's gonna win
I have,
because I don't know what's gonna win.
well, I think that there's like 3, and we can talk about it later. Once you get to the end, I'll tell you what I thought was going to win. But we will find out because I think that this corner of the bracket is going to be rough.
Okay, fine.
All right. So we'll start at the top,
This is unkind of you.
but don't look over. You don't look over here because you don't want to spoil what's coming next. All right.
Oh my
So
god.
your first matchup is La La Land versus Into the Spider-Verse.
Why did you do this to me? This is so mean.
I would hate this. This is why. I mean,
La La Land.
Okay.
So I like Into the Spider-Verse, but I am a much bigger fan of Across the Spider-Verse.
Fair. So I did. There were things that I left off intentionally because I was like, I think if I put Star Wars in,
That's not fair.
it's not fair to the rest of the field.
Yeah.
So I did leave some of them off. Just
Okay.
The next one is Little Women versus The Holdovers.
The Holdovers.
Oh,
I like Little Women a lot.
I'm sorry. That is the incorrect take. And I like The Holdovers a lot, but that is crazy.
I think that The Holdovers is more of like a dude movie.
Okay.
I don't know. Like Timothy Chalamet and Saoirse. Wonderful.
Saoirse?
Wonderful. But I like The Holdovers a lot.
All right. That was a shock already. There was an upset. The next one is Before Sunset versus Gladiator.
Before Sunset.
That one was easy for you. I knew it would.
Yeah, I again, Gladiator is fantastic, but it's not Before Sunset.
All right. Blade Runner versus Spider-Man 3.
What even is that? Blade Runner.
Yeah, I knew because I didn't want to put Spider-Man 1 or 2 on there because I felt like those were,
Those are sacred.
yeah. Okay, this one I think I know the answer to. Raiders of the Lost Ark or Rear Window.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Rear Window, it's 5 stars, but it's 5 stars because of, like being a tryhard. Like, if you don't give it 5 stars, you're just not even a real film nerd.
Okay, interesting. That was a 1 versus 8 seed kind of thing. I was like, this one's going to get squashed, but I'll put it in there anyway.
Yeah.
All right, this one is going to be tough because these two are in the same series.
Okay.
Terminator versus T2.
T2, all the way. I think that The Terminator is a fantastic film, and I've talked about it on this podcast way too much.
That's fair.
But T2 is like a deconstruction of Terminator, and I think it's just a much better film.
Okay, interesting. The next one is going to be you're choosing between 2 Mission Impossible films, Dead Reckoning and Fallout.
Fallout, all the way. I know that I gave them both 5 stars, but it's because I think that they're both really good. I'm in a minority on loving Dead Reckoning, apparently, which is crazy.
I like it a lot. I think it's great.
Dason hates it with passion.
Come on, Dason. The next one we're going to choose between some Planet of the Apes films. We have Kingdom and War.
War.
Which I was surprised that you actually had that at 5 stars. I did not know you had even seen it.
Which one?
War.
Dude, I've watched all of them.
Interesting.
I own them. You recommended the Planet of the Apes series to me like when we first met, and it took me like 4 years, but I finally got around to it.
So good.
And I'd seen the first one before. I don't really like Rise.
The first one is not great.
I think Dawn is probably
The best. I think that's my favorite.
I believe my ranking on Letterboxd is Dawn, Kingdom, War. But I'm going to give War today because I love me some Caesar. If those are I really like Caesar.
Yeah, that's like the culmination of Caesar's
Oh,
journey.
no.
No.
Oh, no.
All right, so I'm gonna have you pick some Spielbergs, and I honestly don't think this one should be that hard, but it is going to be probably.
Oh, God.
West Side Story versus Hook.
What do you mean it's not hard?
I mean, I think
Hook.
All right, I love Hook. Don't get me wrong, but that's a crazy take.
So my logic behind this, okay, and hear me out, guys, is that while I really love Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, I teeter back and forth on this, but I think I have a preference for the original.
I don't.
It is one of my favorite films. And so what I love about West Side Story is that, like the new one, is that it does a good job of like retelling the story, not feeling like the same film.
It also, with omitting the brown face.
Omitting brown face, sure. But one of the big things that got me into my love of like film, why I'm here today, is West Side Story. Not like why I'm alive, but like, why I was like, I should go. And I think that when we first talked about like top movies, I was like, it's a toss up between West Side Story and Empire Strikes Back. And I've always felt that way.
Yeah.
I think old West Side Story has come down, but in terms of where I would rank it as an influence on myself, it is higher than the Steven Spielberg version. Therefore, I'm able to say Hook, because Hook is a big influence of like one of my favorite childhood films. And so here we are.
The next two are Once and Christopher Nolan's Following.
God. Okay, so we got to look at it this way. One of them involves someone who could be kind of uncouth with his practices in life.
Well, clearly that doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter to me either. I really like the movie.
Right.
I found out that Glenn Hansard and Marketa Irglova, as the Swell Season, which is their band name, are going to be playing in Durham in August. And I was thinking about looking into that. It depends on, post-graduation employment. But anyhow.
Yeah.
Between those two, which one? Following is inspirational, and for how cheap it was made. It was even cheaper than Once, to my recollection.
Sure.
Because if you take out the cost of film stock, Following was maybe like $800 or something, whereas Once was still around $150K. So I don't know. That's why I'm like, okay, yeah, inspirational film. But considering what I made for my thesis and all of that stuff, I have to say Once.
Yeah.
But Following is still also up there with like micro budget indie cinema for me.
No, I think for it being micro budget, it's great. But to me, every time I've watched it, which is I've seen it like 2 times now. We watched it in the cinema at one point.
Yeah.
And it just feels like a weird David Lynch ripoff that never really felt to me genuine to the filmmaker for whatever reason.
I like it more than Memento, but and I by that token, I also like it more than than Insomnia. But I think after that, I have it pretty high in my Nolan ranking because of like context of it being a micro budget film. And like what would a Christopher Nolan micro budget film look like? We don't need to ask. Here it is.
Yeah.
But in terms of enjoyment, I think that everything he's made after Insomnia is much better than his first 3 films. That is my opinion, except for maybe one thing. Maybe. And that would be Tenet.
Oh, fair enough. All right, so we got some superhero movies now.
Oh, God.
The Batman
The Batman.
versus No Way Home.
The Batman.
Yeah, I was like, if he picks the other one, I think I would
I
be
love
shocked.
No Way Home. Don't get me wrong.
No, I do too.
But it's like one of them is a much better movie
Yeah.
as like a sort of movie that feels like a movie.
All right, Harry Styles, chill out. Next, we have Baby Driver versus Avengers Endgame.
So I think that Avengers Endgame is kind of the cultural event of a year in a lot of ways. 2019 is defined largely by Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think that was 6 years ago, but like it's such a strong event of a film. Baby Driver, on the other hand, kind of largely flew under the radar. You had to be more in the know about it. And it's one of the few films that has like 3 cast members who were canceled at some point, only one of which has recovered. I think it's one of Edgar Wright's best films, if not its best. So with that in mind and my love of the soundtrack for it, I have to say Avengers Endgame.
Oh, when you said soundtrack, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I would watch Avengers Endgame over Baby Driver any day.
No. There's a lot of reasons for that. Runtime's probably part of it.
I can hit pause.
Yeah, but I like this. If I'm going to sit down and watch something, I want to like make it through. But no, this is yours. This is your
This is my
bracket,
list.
So
This is my list.
You can decide. So next we have Blade Runner 2049 versus 1917.
Well, both of them are Roger Deakins movies.
Yeah, both of them look great.
Both of them look amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already picked Blade Runner, haven't I?
You have picked a Blade Runner,
I have.
but
1917, speaking of World War I and the armistice and all that, it's weird you bring it up.
yeah.
I'm going to go with 2049, though. I think it's just more of an influential film on my taste.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. That one's a good one. All right. So now you're going to have to choose between 2 Lord of the Rings films.
Oh, God.
I already know your answer for
If
this.
it's... okay, yeah.
It's Return of the King or Fellowship of the Ring.
Fellowship.
Yeah. That one was very easy. I knew your answer to that.
There's
we have talked about that.
There's a beauty to Fellowship that I think it's present in Return of the King is just too drawn out. I really like Hobbiton and like the innocence of like Frodo and the gang at the start. And I guess you could see the trilogy as plot arc wise being like a loss of Frodo's innocence almost. As like he becomes degraded by the world around him or stays strong in some ways. But I really like first semester Frodo versus like senior year Frodo.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I don't think you can pick a wrong answer there.
There's not, because it's at the end of the day, it's still just Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's I knew where you were going with that one. All right, this next one is I would call this the odd pairing of the group because I was like, this would just be really funny to put these 2 against each other.
Is it Nacho Libre and Titanic?
No, I didn't put Nacho Libre on this list.
Okay, thank God. I don't have to choose my baby.
A Hidden Life.
In Titanic.
Mr. Bean Holiday.
Oh. Thank you for not putting Titanic on here.
No, I did not put. No, there's one more group, and Titanic is not on here. Because again, there's certain things that I was like, I think the list would be very boring if I put this one on there.
So that was Mr. Bean's Holiday or
A Hidden Life.
A Hidden Life.
I gave you a Malik
one of them's in my top 4.
Yes,
but one of them influences how I view comedy.
Sure.
and everything.
That's why I thought this was going to be a tough one, honestly.
It is. It's a very tough one. I think that Mr. Bean's Holiday is a darn near perfect movie in basically every way, from the Willem Dafoe character to the part where he wakes up in Nazi Germany by accident. All of that stuff is he wakes up underneath a wagon in a commercial shoot, and it's like he wakes up to like a tank. It's funny. But I think I'm gonna go with A Hidden Life.
Yeah.
Because weirdly, they both have Nazis in them.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
They do. Yeah.
All right. And this is going to be the last of the first round. So this is how the round wraps up. Interstellar versus Oppenheimer.
Interstellar versus Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
You're asking me that? Like it's a
I
question?
am.
The answer is obvious in every front, okay?
Okay.
Cillian Murphy is a wonderful, talented actor. He gives one of the greatest performances of his career, if not of the last 20 years,
Yeah.
in that film.
Agreed.
So clearly the answer is Interstellar, which is a much more watchable movie. I love Oppenheimer. I went like 6 times to the theater to watch it, and I've seen it much more since.
Yeah.
But Interstellar just hits on all fronts, whereas Oppenheimer has like really good moments.
Yeah.
But Interstellar is a really good moment.
There you go. All right. So that's the end of round one. So
Okay.
now we got to run it back, and we're going to get
I don't like
the next
this.
group of things that are going
I
to come
hate
through.
this.
All right. So we've got La La Land versus The Holdovers.
La La Land.
Okay. That one wasn't too hard for you.
No.
All right. Before Sunset or Blade Runner? Oh,
Why did you do this
that's
to me?
brutal.
This is terrible.
Brutal.
I have both Blade Runners in. I don't remember what the other one will be up against. So then
Yeah.
don't tell me.
I'm not going to tell you.
So I think that I'm going to go with Before Sunset.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Ridley. I'm sorry, Harrison.
All right. Oh, God. All right. Raiders versus T2.
T2.
Oh,
That's not even really a question.
that's crazy. All right. Mission Impossible Fallout versus War for the Planet of the Apes.
Mission Impossible Fallout.
Ugh, gross. All right.
This might be a lot easier than you than you're
Going
thinking.
down, I guess maybe. All right. Hook versus Once.
Once.
Okay. That was good. All right. The Batman versus Avengers Endgame.
Why? Just why? I think that one of them was one of the best stories I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
But I think back to a moment in the theater when Captain America picks up the hammer.
Sure.
And I was sitting beside you, if I'm not mistaken.
We were.
Do you remember my reaction?
Not specifically, but it was audible for sure.
I started crying
Yeah.
because I don't know. I was like, I never thought I'd live to see this in a movie, which is like such a weird take to have.
Mm-hmm.
But that is like almost a spiritual moment for me.
Sure.
Whereas like in the Batman, it's a very engaging film and I love it and it's wonderful. And Robert Pattinson is probably the best iteration of Batman that we've had in a very long time.
Fair.
But I got to go Avengers. I think, I don't know. It's just in my gut. Maybe I'm just hungry. I don't know.
Maybe. All right. So now you're gonna get the answer to your question from earlier because we are now at 2049
Oh no.
verse. You ready for this?
No, I'm not ready.
Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay. You now have no Blade Runners left.
That's fine.
All right. Again, this one's rough. This last one, and you kind of know what it is.
I don't
A
remember.
Hidden Life versus Interstellar.
You know, they're kind of the same movie. Can I just move them both forward
No,
as a grouping?
you
Like
got to pick one.
A Hidden Interstellar Life. I don't know. I think in terms of like, I'm going to get, it's weird to be like, okay, yeah, I think that this one's better because I'm not saying that. But perhaps what I'm going to go off of here is which one am I more apt to watch?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with A Hidden Life is it has profoundly shaped my life. I credit Terrence Malick for a revitalization of my soul. I'm exaggerating, but
Gross.
I think A Hidden Life is a film that feels like a portrait of like the world I live in.
Lady on Fire.
And I don't know. The problem with it is it hits too close to home.
Okay.
So as much as I love it, I can't consistently watch it because it does affect my mood.
All right.
So I'm going Interstellar.
All right. So you are now at the Elite Eight.
Oh no.
This is exciting. There is things that I'm surprised are here and some things that I am not. La La Land versus Before Sunset.
Oh God.
That's rough, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of the same movie. Can I just put them together and move them forward together?
We're not moving any forward together. You got to pick one or the other.
Well, the one where they do move forward together is Before Sunset. Whereas in La La Land, they don't end up together.
Spoilers, but yeah.
It's been 9 years, dude. So my overarching thought on this is that La La Land is a musical. Before Sunset is not. So that's obviously a trait it has. However, La La Land has a very good song in it. And that's about all I can say on the music front.
Sure.
There is literally one song. So I'm going to go Before Sunset.
La La Land fans are going to hate you for that.
Okay, they reuse the same melody in every song. It is not like I'm not just saying that. I love La La Land. I have the soundtrack, bought it on vinyl first day I could. It's just one of those, like, I don't think that the music, the songs that are sung are not particularly good. I
Okay.
like the soundtrack, like the score.
Sure. Okay.
Anyway,
So your next one is T2 versus Mission Impossible Fallout.
T2.
All right. I see a pattern here. There's no hesitation on T2 love here. All right.
T2 Love.
Once versus Endgame.
Once versus Endgame?
Mm-hmm. That's so weird.
You know, the thing about Once is that it's not Avengers.
Okay.
It is a musical.
It is a musical.
It is a musical, yeah. But there's music in Avengers. So they're basically the same movie. Can we just wrap it together and move it forward?
Yeah, one of them was made but for like a gazillion times more money.
Yeah. I don't know. Recently rewatching Once, I know I've put it forward pretty far.
Yeah.
I have to say that the music is what carries the film because the acting is not particularly great. So on the front, if we're going off of acting only, I think Avengers Endgame is better.
Okay.
But I'm still going to go Once.
All right. You were pump faking there for a second.
I
Like,
was,
what's
yeah.
going on here? Okay. Fellowship of the Ring versus Interstellar.
Why? Why are you doing this to me?
You know?
I think I watched them about the same time, actually, for the first time. I was kind of late to Lord of the Rings.
Interesting.
Well, actually, that's not true, because I had seen all the Hobbits. I watched it in 2012, so like 2 years apart for those, having seen Interstellar and Fellowship. But
Sure.
I really love My Fellowship of the Ring. I think it's a wonderful film, but when it comes to like films that mean a lot to me, I don't know if I would put that. I'm not gonna like wear a T-shirt. Like Fellowship of the Ring is never gonna be in my Letterboxd top 4. Interstellar has been, so I'm going Interstellar.
Okay, so we are now in the final four.
Oh God, I don't remember what I've said.
So the first matchup in the final four.
I really hate you. I just
Before
want to tell you that.
Sunset versus T2.
Those are very drastically different movies, but they do have something in common.
Okay.
That they're very good.
These are all 5 stars for you. I would hope that you would think that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I gotta talk this one through.
All right,
Terminator 2,
let's hear it.
one of the best action movies of all time.
Yeah.
One of the most engaging, like, time travel stories of all time.
Absolutely.
One of the best performances from Arnold Schwarzenegger of all time.
Sure.
I would say probably James Cameron's second best movie, if not his best movie.
Depending on who you ask.
Depends on who you ask. I don't remember what I put, so there's that. I think it's good. It's very good. Before Sunset is up there as one of Richard Linklater's best movies.
Mm-hmm.
It explores love and thoughts and vibes and, you know, the meaning of life in a way that I've never seen a film really do. And it meanders, but in like the best way possible.
Yeah.
When I watch Terminator 2, I'm inspired to like be a nerd. But when I watch Before Sunset, I'm inspired to write.
Mm.
When I watch T2, I'm inspired to look up how they did particular camera moves and CGI things before it was like easy to do. Whereas when I watch Before Sunset, I want to know how to be a better filmmaker so I can write stories that connect with the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I have to go with Terminator. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to go with Before Sunset.
All right. I was like, whoa.
I don't know.
You waxed on poetic there for a minute, and then you were going to, completely pivot.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. So now I think this one's actually kind of easy, potentially. Maybe not.
Okay.
Once versus Interstellar.
Yeah, so I think that both of them have to do with going and finding that one person once. Because they both end very similarly, where Matthew McConaughey leaves to go find Anne Hathaway, and in the other one, the man leaves to go find his ex.
Yep.
So kind of the same movie.
Well,
I think that the emotional core of Interstellar is much more resonant on every front because there isn't really one-to-ones outside of the music.
yeah.
I love the music. I love the DIY filmmaking. It is something that, similar to Before Sunset, is a very big influence on me. If you know me at all, you know that my thesis, the two biggest influences on it were Before Sunset and Once. So it makes sense that they would both come up right at the end.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can say I like Once more than Interstellar. So I'm not going to. I like Interstellar more.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we are in the finals now.
Okay.
Before Sunset versus Interstellar. You have to make a choice.
Interstellar.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I know I just became like the most basic Nolan head ever, but
Yeah. Well, so this is my thought whenever I was writing this down, and I got to this bottom corner and realized that I had not added this or this. I said whichever one wins that round is going to win the entire thing.
you mean,
Interstellar. I said whoever wins between Interstellar and A Hidden Life when they go head to head is going to win the rest of the thing.
yeah, that's fair.
That was my. I was
So
like,
if I'd gone with Before Sunset, you would have been like,
I would have been shocked, but I'm also like, I get it.
yeah.
Like,
I think it's the best 82 minutes of a rom-dram thing that I've ever watched.
yeah. See, it's not my favorite of the trilogy.
No, because you like your heart being ripped out.
Yeah. But I think it's a lot like Lord of the Rings, where there's not a bad option. It's really what you're looking for in it.
Yeah.
And there's a real dreamlike quality to Before Sunset that I do really love, particularly in the ending. But yeah, for me, it's not as high as the other two.
I feel like the ending of my thesis feels very similar to the ending of Before Sunset.
Fair. No, that's totally fair.
I never thought about that till just now. Anyways, I'm
yeah.
tooting my own horn. Yeah. Well, thanks for ruining my day.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry to everyone listening for my sniffles.
Yeah, me too. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't help it. Cool. So what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? I finally updated my letterbox today. It's been a minute since I've done that. So we watched. We talked about Sing Sing last week, but I've watched more of The Rookie because I can't stop watching it for some reason. I am like one episode away from season 5. So that's basically all I've been watching. But I did go to the theater on Wednesday and I watched 3 films. One of them we talked about here, which was Warfare. But I did watch Snow White. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Very mediocre, but Rachel Zegler is outstanding. She does everything she can to save this, but it falls flat on its face. I think everybody else in the film was miscast. Not just Gal Gadot, because we already knew that was going to be the case, but it felt like every person in the film felt off.
Interesting.
But again, it wasn't as bad as most people were saying. It's also not great either. I gave it 2.5 stars. And then after that, which was a strange follow-up, I watched Death of a Unicorn, which is the horror comedy starring Jen Ortega and Paul Rudd. This is a mess.
And Will Poulter.
And Will Poulter's in it. But I think the problem is it's two very different films that are battling each other, and it snowballs away from the director, because there is the Eat the Rich horror comedy part of it, which I think works pretty well at first, and then also the father-daughter story, which I don't think really connected with me from the jump. I don't think it works, but by the end, it just turns into this tonally weird. Just, it's not good. Like I think it just got away from the director because it's his first feature film.
Oh, I see.
And I think maybe that might be part of it. I gave it 2.5 as well. I really wanted to like this one. I didn't have high hopes going in, but I also didn't know much about it. But not my favorite. But yeah.
Nice. I only watched one other thing, and that is the film for class today, which was McCabe and Miss Miller, which is a Robert Altman Western from 1971. It wasn't really my jam, but,
yeah,
it's what it is. And then, I don't know, I've just been watching like a lot of random YouTube videos, and I've been like listening to music more. It is so weird because I'm like, yeah, I've been watching a lot of stuff. And then I think back on it, it's like, oh no, I've just been editing a film.
Right.
Like, I feel like I've been watching movies, but it's just been the same movie over and over and over.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which is going to happen. You still got some more time to do that. So
that's true.
it's exciting for you.
No, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good time.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. You got anything else?
I don't.
All right. Oh, wait. Yes, you do.
What is that?
You got to plug the social medias.
Oh my God. Yeah. If you don't follow us at TIWWWM pod on Threads, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube,
Wherever you get your
wherever you
content.
find Blue Sky, that's the other one. We're on all those. They don't get updated consistently, and they're also all very different in terms of what's there.
Yeah.
You can find where someone on Threads roasted my Letterboxd top 4 recently. I've just was thinking about that a minute ago. It's quite funny. They made fun of me for my love of A Hidden Life, actually. And yeah.
Good. I
So
like that.
follow us on those, and then I think once I get past the hump of my thesis, I'm going to start updating socials again. I can't commit to it because it's like I'm too
Right.
busy.
Yeah.
but-
No, I mean, you got a couple more weeks before
I have
it's-
1 week till it's due.
Yeah.
It's due 7 days from today, which y'all will not be hearing this 7 days from today. So at the point that you hear this, I've already submitted it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, good luck to me.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck with that. Anyway. All right. Bye.